For those who don't know, I'm Greg Peterson. I am the chairman of the Jamestown Bar Association Memorial Committee, and I'd like to commence a special meeting of that committee to celebrate the life of Mark J. Duncanson. The order of the day will be that I will share excerpts from the obituary on Mark. I will then open it up for those that are in the audience here, for those who want to share a memory or two. And then after that concludes, anybody who is on the Zoom may be involved. And then we'll adjourn and send it all to Jerry Leneke to transcribe and send to the family members. So with that in mind, I'd like to open up this meeting in honor of the celebration of the life of Mark J. Duncanson. Mark J. Duncanson, 64, of 25 Wicks Avenue, Jamestown, died unexpectedly Thursday morning, March 25th, 2021. He was born December 16th, 1956, in Schenectady, New York, and was the son of the late William F. Duncanson III and Ann Toner Duncanson. A veteran of the United States Air Force, Mark was a graduate of SUNY Geneseo and received his Juris Doctor degree from Capital Law School in Columbus, Ohio. A lawyer admitted to the New York State's 4th Appellate Division in 1994, Mark was an attorney for the Chautauqua County Surrogates Court, among other many activities in Mayville. He enjoyed golf and carpentry. Mark is survived by his daughter, Lillian Shalino of Lubbock, Texas, siblings William Duncanson IV, James Duncanson, Ann Crosley, and Cynthia Mooney of Buffalo. He was preceded in death by his father in 2010, as we recall, Bill Duncanson, and his mother in 2017, and by a brother, Gregory Duncanson, in 2017. With that, I will be happy to open up the session for any of the attorneys who would like to share comment.
Phil Calla. First, I'd like to extend my condolences to the family. I wanted to speak first because if somebody did a better job than me, I would be too embarrassed to offer any words. But I've known Mark since he began practice. Of course, I was partners with his dad, Bill, for some period of time at the Ledestro firm. And Mark landed on the scene, and, you couldn't miss him. He was a unique individual, and just so you don't think I'm being trite, I mean, we all are, but he was more uniquer than most. And he didn't suffer fools. He was somewhat of an iconoclast. And I don't know if that came from his military background. I think his posture did and his bearing did, because he always looked like he was headed to the parade field. And he had a very unique style and a very unique decibel level. You knew when he was in the room because he was always about 20 decibels above everybody else. Just an interesting man, always squared away. Again, I think part of his military background. He was he used to use Mr. Triscari under the viaduct as his tailor, and I commented once about his suit, or several of his suits. He had an array of them, and he said, "Oh yeah, I had Mr. Triscari makes them for me for some ridiculously low amount of money." And but that was important to him, and as I say, he was always squared away. Well, with regard to golf, I wasn't aware that he was a golfer, and as you know, I have organized this Jamestown Bar Association golf outing for many decades, and he asked me once about it, and my response was, "Mark, I didn't know you golf," and he said, "Phil, I'm a golfing machine." And that was Mark. Love him. I'm going to miss him.
Thanks, Phil. Anybody else from the audience? Pat?
Pat Rice. I had the pleasure of working with Mark for many, many years in the Public Defender's Office. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, Mark worked for our office for years. He was in the criminal division for a number of years. In the last several years, he practiced in our family court office. He was an important cog in the Public Defender's Office. I just wanted to say that Mark is going to be sorely missed by everybody in our office. He was well thought of, did a great job for us, and he's going to be very, very hard to replace. And again, as Phil said, I just wanted to express my condolences to the Duncanson family. You know, I've known the Duncanson family for many, many years. When I first started practicing law back in 1978, I started with Ledestro and Bailey, and Bill Duncanson was my mentor during when I was practicing, and for years afterwards. Mark will be sorely missed. Thank you.
Lyle Hoydu, and I want to extend my condolences to Mark's family. When I first started practicing law many, many years ago, I first met Dunk at a pretrial conference, and usually pretrial conferences are where the attorneys calm down and they speak softly and they each go around and the judge gets to hear what everyone says. And when it was Dunk's turn, I just wasn't prepared for that booming voice that he had, and it kind of rocked me. And I remember leaving thinking, God, is that guy angry? Or is my wife said, no, that's just, that's Dunk. That's how he talks in a loud voice. Well, being a younger attorney, I used to pick the brains of the more senior members, the older attorneys, talk to them. And I remember one time with Dunk, he was bothered, and he explained that he had to do this appeal. And Dunk was a very good attorney, and he had wonderful skills and had a very good grip of keeping a perspective. But drafting an appeal and following those procedures was not one of them. So Dunk recruited me, and I gladly volunteered to help him out. In the course of doing that, I got to know a lot more about him. And the first thing that I found out that Dunk and I had in common is we were both raised by very strict parents. So we would share these stories of various forms of punishment and other torture that our parents used to impose upon us. And it was it showed that we had a lot in common. And I know many of us here, we practiced with his father, and you know what a wonderful fellow he was. And Mark's brothers as well could share in the stories, though, as how strict the father could be. So it was something that we had in common, and Dunk and I always joked about. Later on, I used to tell stories about, I hail from the great state of Pennsylvania, and I grew up in the Allegheny National Forest, and I would talk about these very obscure trails that I would walk to go back and to find these foundations that were there from establishments that were over 100 years that are gone. And I mean, it's kind of like my little secret. I didn't expect anybody to know. Well, sure enough, I mentioned Little Ireland, which is on the back road from Limestone into Allegheny State Park, and Dunk had been there, and he knew all about it. And then he started telling me about some old some old ruins that were north of the Science Lake, which is also in Allegheny State Park. And it was amazing to me that here's Dunk, who I never associated with a guy doing a wilderness walk out in the Allegheny forest, and he knew about all these places. And another thing that I found out about Dunk is my wife and I, we've built and now have rebuilt our little cottage on the lake and have done other projects. So I mentioned to Dunk about a project I was working on, and I was looking for a certain piece of wood. And I had no idea that Dunk was a craftsman. He showed me pictures of furniture and other woodworking that he had done, and he knew I was looking for a specific type of black walnut, and sure enough, he sends me on Facebook Marketplace where he had found some wood for me from an Amish guy down in Pennsylvania. And that appeal that I helped Mark with was 25 years ago, but he never forgot that I helped him with it. And he was always grateful. And before this pandemic came along and we all got shut down, he delivered to my house this beautiful wooden pizzeria flipper because he knew that I was talking about building an outdoor wood fire, and he built it out of special wood that he had in his shop. And that's just Dunk. He was just a wonderful guy, very good attorney. It's going to be a loss for us in the bar that we don't have him around, and a loss for the community because he did such a wonderful job representing his clients, and we're going to miss him.
Just want to note, I would a little disturbance there. My phone, apologize, but that was Judge Cass left a message saying that he wished he could be here and wanted to express his condolences as well. Anybody else from the audience who would like to speak? Okay, with that, I will now open it up to the Zoom audience. And for those who might be desirous, wave your hand, and Marion will open up. And by the way, unmute yourself when you're going to do that.
Well, I hope it was worth the wait, because Dunk, as everybody is calling him, was one special guy. I formulated my relationship with him talking about his dad. He was very proud of his father. And, frankly, a lot of us that started practicing that many years ago remember Senior as a gentleman, an outstanding lawyer. It's not a surprise that the two Duncanson boys that are lawyers are great lawyers because they got taught by the best. I often would call his dad. I talked to Mark and I said to Mark, every time I've got a civil litigation question, seems like your dad always had the answer. And Duncan says, don't you know? We talked about, the family issue, and, Mark was proud of his family and proud to be one of the representatives of the family that stayed in the law business. Those little things like, bumping into him at the post office or at the grocery store always reminded me why I was so happy that I came back to practice law in Jamestown. It mattered to him and it mattered to me that we got to see each other. Last thing I want to say is, some guys like Mark fly under the radar because they represent people that other people didn't take cases up for. He handled a lot of difficult cases for people that otherwise would not have had counsel. And I respected him very much for being the go-to guy to help people who needed a helping hand out. I'm going to miss him big time. And Bill, thank God you're going to live the spirit of your brother and continue respect you and your brother like I respected your dad. Thank you.
Having heard no further comments, I will call this meeting adjourned of the Memorial Committee of the Jamestown Bar Association, and we will transcribe this and provide it to the family members. With that, we stand adjourned, and we thank everybody.